Bhaktavrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, I got the correct verse clear this evening. Sorry about the previous week, it got messed up. There's a little introduction to verse 63. And before that, a little review to get to 63, and to do that, a little background on the structure of chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita, we find some different titles. Prabhupada gave chapter 18 the name Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. But as you can see, Baladev Vijayabhusan gave a slightly different title, Moksha Yoga, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur entitled it Prapti Yoga, surrender, the final attainment. So anyway, there are different lenses to look at the same chapter, but I'm going to take you through a very quick overview of the multiple sections and then focus on our section. This is just, the 35,000 feet elevation looking down at chapter 18. There's sections, and as we discussed last two times, chapter 18 is a summary of everything that's come before, the other 17 chapters. So the first set of verses in chapter 18 is giving a summary of Karma Yoga, the first 6 verses of this chapter, and then Gyan Yoga, the next set of verses in this chapter through verse 17. And then there's a very large section where the modes of nature, which were also a whole chapter in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, discussing the modes of nature, but how the modes control activity. So it's looking again, a backward glance at karma, but the modes of nature influencing them. And then going beyond karma, that's where we want to go. Freedom from reactions from work, moving from sakam to nishkam karma. So there's 4 sections of Bhagavad Gita. Now we're getting close to where we are now, but there's a section that precedes where we are now. That's confidential knowledge. That's moving from this karma-free position, working with knowledge, Gyan Yoga, to come to the platform of devotional service. It's a sequence. Karma-free work, to focus on knowledge, to become acquainted with Brahman, and then to the platform of devotional service. Now, this is obviously a summary. We're not going into any of the details. So following that, verse 55, starting with 56 through what you just covered, pure devotional service. And in pure devotional service, there's different stages, and this is the stage where we are. And that's the stage of more confidential knowledge, and that's recognizing and surrendering unto Super Soul. So you're going to see some slides that you saw before already about surrendering to Super Soul, where Krishna is referring to Super Soul in the third person. He is situated within the heart of every living being. Krishna's expansion is referred to as He. And then, coming up is where you're going next with all of this, verses 64 to 66, the celebrated pure devotional service. Become a pure devotee of Krishna. And then 2 more sections, it's a big chapter, 2 more sections the preaching, the value and benefit of studying and preaching Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna becomes firmly fixed. He's beyond all doubt. He's ready to do what Krishna wants. And then Sanjaya makes his predictions of what happens when Arjuna and Krishna come together. Victory. Okay, so take a look back on that chart where we're speaking now is verse 63, but 63 is part of another section, which is the surrender into supersoul section. And notice there's confidential, more confidential, and most confidential knowledge. Okay? Those are the first three on this chart. Now I'm going to focus on those same first three levels of confidential knowledge. Well, from the very first verse of this chapter until 55, it's the gradual to karma, to bhakti, and eventually Bhagavan. Then more confidential, 59 to 62, surrender to the controller of material nature, supersoul. We're going to see these verses because it leads to 63. And 63 is deliberate on this fully and do what you wish to do. That's our verse for this evening. And then the final, most confidential, from 64 to the end. Surrender to Krishna personally. Bhagavan feature. So the eventually becomes manifest. So that's the overview of this chapter, and focusing now a little bit on the 59 through 62 section. We're going to go back to 58. 58 deals eventually coming to Bhagavan, where Krishna says in 58, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. And then there's a few verses on what it's like when you get lost. When you hold on to false ego and don't hear Krishna and you continue working, then you're lost. And he describes what that is. 59 and 60. So now we're going to head to 61. This is the bridge. Because 61 is dealing with supersoul, right? So seeing that Arjuna still seemed to have the false concept of thinking himself the knower and the doer, and because of Arjuna's inability to give that up, the Lord then teaches in a different way in two verses, 61, 62, and then 63 is do what you feel is best. The free will factor after having knowledge. So this is the more confidential knowledge that we heard about, read about, and going to see it again. You're going to see some slides that you saw 2 weeks ago. Well, I think you'll recognize, at least you'll recognize the graphics. Yantra Rodhani Mayaya. Remember that one. Remember the graphic. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. So it's third person. O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. So surrender to the Supreme Lord, who is that person, supreme person, upon whom the whole machine is working and resting, and he's giving direction to it. So don't be lost in false ego, be surrendered to the supersoul. Notice on the right side, there's a nice supersoul inside the heart of that fellow. And then you remember the next graphic. Probably you remember the message, but for sure you remember the graphic. Supposing you have a fast car. And if you have a fast, high-speed car, then you can move fast. But it's the same soul that's in a slow car, and it's the same supreme soul that's in the slow car. And material energy, that's the slow car at the bottom, by the way. And super soul fashions the material energy according to the guna and karma. So that's the message on the right side. We're not independent, we're on a machine, and the machine is under the direction of super soul. Therefore, it's one's duty to surrender to the super soul. Pretty clear. And he then nails it one more time. You probably remember this graphic. O sign of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. You remember this. That image is Rupa and Sanatan surrendering to Lord Chaitanya at Ramakeli. That's the image. And they're surrendering utterly for sure. Then it wasn't just super soul. They were surrendering to Bhagavan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But he's speaking here about Paramatma. Paramatma. And by doing so, two things. Transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. Now what's the supreme and eternal abode? Let's take a look at the Sanskrit. Param Shantim, that's transcendental peace, and Stanam Praphasya Shashvatam, eternal. The supreme and eternal abode of the Lord and peace. So we saw this slide. I remember discussing it. I remember Sri Radhika's question also from this slide. There's peace of mind, Vaikuntha, no anxieties, no troubles, peace of mind. And then there's peace of the heart, Param Shantim, the peace that comes from loving and being loved. Now this is loving Krishna. And then her question was, what does this mean? The peace that passeth all understanding. So it's transcendental. It's Param Shantim. So the language in the Bible is different, but the message is the same. Param Shantim. And then there's this Sthanam. Arjuna thought he could have only either Shanti or Sthanam, that is the supreme and eternal abode, Sthanam, but Krishna assured that he'll get both. Now, Arjuna knows what that other is, and we don't. So he's instructing Arjuna so he can instruct us. So here's the Sanskrit. Param Shantim Sthanam Prapyasi Shashvatam. So we discovered this, or we discussed this, that's 62. Now comes our verse for this evening. And it's where Krishna is saying, please deliberate on this and consider what you feel you must do. There's the Sanskrit. Guyat Guyataram Maya. So this is the more confidential amongst the confidential. And that's why the characterization of the more confidential. Asheshena. Asheshena means to think over this thoroughly. Thoroughly, ashesha, without leaving any stones unturned. And then the final line, deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish to do. Do what you wish to do. And there's a very nice painting. It's like the resolution of this painting is fantastic. Very good painting. Very good copy of a painting. So Krishna, that we're concluding, the whole of Bhagavad Gita is being concluded here. So what does this mean, this yatechasi tata kuru? As you like, you may act. So it breaks it down. Krishna is ready to wait for us. This is us, not just Arjuna. But it also, there's an implication. How long are you going to keep Krishna waiting? And it's in our hand. It's a free will event. Ultimately, each of us has to make the decision to surrender to Krishna. Krishna will not do that for us. And there's this word in big letters, asheshena. Consider this knowledge thoroughly. While Krishna is waiting for us, and he's walking with us, but he's not going to make the decision for us. So this is a free will message. Free will message. Here it is, the free will message. And you're going to see this twice. We have free will, but there's scope and limit to our free will. Not don't have unlimited free will. What's the scope and limit? We're forced to act as we choose to desire. Notice the language. Because it goes back to the middle section of chapter 18, the modes of nature. Because modes are influencing our thoughts and our desires, naturally. And when those modes are impelling, we still have choices. I mean, most people just go along with whatever the impelling mood is. But we have choices, and once we make choices according to that choice, we're forced to act because the desire drives it. And once we desire, then the swabhava, right? Swabhava. You remember this from chapter 18. You all have been studying the chapter. Brahma karma swabhavajam, Kshatriya karma swabhavajam, Vaishya karma swabhavajam, etc. That's the impelling force. Here the word is used, momentum. Impelling force that causes us, impels us to act. And we start acting. And then the momentum increases as we act. We become habit formed to do whatever it is that we do. So, but it goes right back to the choices we make. And the choices we make are going to influence our desires, and that the desires influence our actions, influences our swabhava, and there we go. We have a life. Now we can make bad choices, and we can make good choices. The bad choice has already been outlined. Here it is. Dhyayato, that's contemplating objects of the senses. Then we develop some attraction for those objects of the senses. And then kama, we have some obsession. We got to get rid of some of those objects. And then when it doesn't happen the way we thought it was going to happen, there's some anger. And then delusion. Then smriti, Brahma. We lose it. We get lost. Or who we really are becomes lost. And buddhi nasha. But it's not over yet. Pranasyati, things become destroyed. These are terms taken directly from Bhagavad Gita. Let's do it again. We have free will, but there's a limit to our free will. And once we use our free will in a certain way, we make choices to desire in a certain direction. Once we desire, then things start to move, impelled by swabhava, And it keeps moving and moving and moving, and we become lost. Unless you take shelter of Krishna, and then that cycle is broken. So contemplating objects, attraction for the objects, I got to get one of those objects or get rid of one of them. Irritation doesn't happen the way I want it to happen. We become deluded, oblivions. Stupefaction and destruction. Nice words, right? They all end in T-I-O-N. So there's the conditioned nature, which was discussed just before these two verses. Arjuna, if you don't take shelter of me, then here's what's going to happen. So here's what's going to happen. But there's choice. So that's 63. Please deliberate upon this carefully and decide what you want to do. Here's commentary by Vishwanath. Here the Lord concludes the whole subject of Gita. Jnana, or knowledge, consists of Karma Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. In this case, Jnana means that by which one knows. And that is Scripture, is the means by which we can know, which produces knowledge according to each one of these yoga systems. Here he's calling it sadhanas, the sadhana of Karma Yoga, the sadhana of Ashtanga Yoga, etc. So Scripture is the source, and Gita is giving us the conclusion or the essence. I have revealed a Scripture, or Jnana, which is more secret than those scriptures, Guyad, Guyataram, a process that has not been revealed in the scriptures written by the authors such as Vishishta, Badarayana, or Narada. Again, this is Vishwanath's commentary. He's explaining here the meaning of this more confidential, Guyad, Guyataram. Another meaning is, their knowledge is relative and mine is infinite. That's these other teachers and the other teachings and the other knowledge, and Krishna's is in the superlative position. Thus, they cannot understand the knowledge because of its most confidential nature. I also did not teach them at all because of its intensely confidential nature. Considering this knowledge thoroughly, Asheshena, do what you want to do, whatever is suitable to your taste. So again, this is suitable to your taste. It's indicating the desire topic. And, for each of us, to make it personal and practical, we also, we read Bhagavad Gita. And then we have the same set of options, like, what are we going to do? And, of course, Krishna's advice is surrender unto me utterly, because if not, we'll be lost. Or, it's, of course, proportionate. It's not a 1 or a 0, but proportionate to one's surrender. Then we can be situated in real knowledge. And then real knowledge is going to look differently according to the knower. But what Krishna is saying here is, Vishwanath is saying here, this Guyad Guyataram is the more confidential than anything else. Again, so much knowledge about the modes of nature and about karma and bondage of karma and becoming free from the bondage of karma, become situated in knowledge, just reviewing the chapter, becoming situated in Brahman by being situated in knowledge, stopping fruitive activity, coming to the stage of bhakti where one is surrendering to the super soul, because if not, we're lost. And then comes the conclusion, 1866. We're still at 1863. Here's Baladev's summary of this verse. The Lord now concludes the scripture. Thus, in the manner just spoken, iti, I have declared to you this knowledge, jnanam, the scripture of the Gita, which is the means of understanding karma, bhakti, and gyan. Gyan means that by which something is known. It is more secret than the scriptures which teach secret mantras. It should thus be kept secret. Now, coming up is what happens when those who teach this message, they're very special people. But you have to teach it properly. After reflecting on this scripture fully, isheshena, do as you wish. The intended meaning is, reviewing this scripture thoroughly, your ignorance will be destroyed and you will be steadfast in my words. Nice. That's the proper conclusion. But he's leaving the door open for something else, according to Arjun's whatever. Here's what Vishwanath says, whatever is suitable to your taste. And last, this is our last slide for this evening. This is what the next section is. The most confidential knowledge, becoming a pure devotee of Krishna. Now, we know that part. And it sounds like, hey, just go there, right? So we can just go there, but it's also helpful to know what some of the obstacles are to get there. And that's what the earlier sections are. And of course, the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is for everybody, and out of all the pyramid of all living entities, how many are pure devotees? How many see that as the goal and purpose of their life, and how those that say it, how many are doing it, and so forth. But Bhagavad Gita is for everyone, and there's layers and levels of elevation of consciousness, which is summarized in the 18th chapter very nicely, including, Brahma, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and their positions and their duties, and how to do duties in such a way that you're not entangled in karma, and so forth and so on. So now Krishna's concluding his whole presentation. It's how long did Bhagavad Gita discussion take? A couple of hours on the midst of the battlefield, and now you do what you feel you must do. You think asheshena, think over this very carefully, and be prepared to make a choice. And from choices come the whole sequence of other things. So it's good for us to read Bhagavad Gita regularly. And by reading Bhagavad Gita regularly, we know from Bhagavad Gita what Krishna says. One worships me with his intelligence. Your intelligence becomes purified, and when you have the good kind of intelligence, you don't make foolish choices. When you make proper choices because of good intelligence, then your desires will flow in the right direction. Gradually, at least. And Krishna will see that you're making your efforts to reach him, and you get Krishna's help. He is the swift deliverer. Okay, so there's a half-hour summary of our verse for this evening and the little background that leads up to it and coming attractions. Becoming a pure devotee. So let's see if our attendees want to raise some question. I recognize a number of the names here from last week. And let's see if we have some comments or questions. I think everyone's used to Zoom now. You probably know how to raise your hand or just unmute yourself, etc. Hey, there's one right there. Radhika, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for so much. Ask. You said the Aseshena, the word, but there is the Krishna walk for us, Krishna be with us. Like I can't understand the word. Like the in the slide, it says some, but I can't understand. But Maharaj, if you can, you please explain again? Aseshena, it's not
Yeah,
that.
Asheshena. I'm moving the slides back, but it's
Oh, okay.
going a little
Yeah, this
slow.
one. Yeah. No, the
This
other
one?
one. No, other one.
This one.
No, the other one, Maharaj.
The other one. Asheshena. There we go.
Yeah, this
At the
one. Yeah.
bottom. Okay.
Here, Krishna waits for us and walks with us, but not for us. So, what do you mean by like he's in the sentence like Krishna waits for us and walks with us, like but not for us means
But
like what
not
do you?
for us means he doesn't make the decision for us. I could change the language, but he waits for us and he walks with us, but he's not going to make our decisions for us.
Can you explain more?
Sure.
Like,
Are you a parent?
yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
Okay.
Now you understand. And you're with your children, and you walk with them and you wait for them, but you're not going to decide for them because they've got their own will, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, true. And so sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no, and sometimes they say other things.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah. So your relationship with your children is like what Krishna is saying. What this sentence means.
Okay.
He's not going to decide for us. He's very loving. I mean, he's not. That there's consequences. There are consequences for the decisions we make, and he makes it clear what the consequences are. Just like law. There's laws. People know what the laws are. They can be law-abiding or law-breaking, or scoff law they call it. Anyway, he gives us the freedom to make our choice, which is what this verse is saying. At the very top, as you like, you may act. So he doesn't make our choices for us. We're responsible for our choices, and we're responsible for the fruits of our choices, and he just gives the reward according to our choices. He's asking for something. He's asking for utterly surrender unto Super Soul, which is him, or who is him. So, with your children, you may say something. It's better for you to not hit your sibling. Please don't do that. It's not nice. And they'll look at you and they'll hit their sibling. Or whatever. They'll wait till you're not looking and then they'll hit their sibling or whatever it is. So there's choices that everyone's making. And that's what Krishna's position is. It's in chapter 13. He's just saying again, Upadrashta Anumanta. Anumanta. He permits. Upadrashta and Anumanta. That's the meaning.
Thank you, Maharaj. I have another question if you have time.
Sure.
Krishna stay in like a Paramatma, in the form of Paramatma in our heart. Like he knows everything, like where, like our desires, what we want. Like again, like people go and ask for, I want this, I want that, I want that. Like the material or spiritual also. Can we ask like that, or like he knows everything? Like he is a Paramatma in our heart, so he knows everything, our desires. Can we ask?
Yeah.
I want this, I want that.
Yeah. He even without your asking, he knows. And your question is it okay to ask? Even he knows.
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah, that's a question.
Yeah, sure. Now, there's teaching that says there are things more beneficial for us to ask and things that are less beneficial for us to ask. That's another thing. That's another question. Are there things more beneficial? Yes. But is it okay to ask? It's okay to ask. I mean, again, think of your children. Mommy, can I have some shoes? It's cold out. They don't have to ask. You're gonna find the shoes and put it in front of them before they walk out the door. But they can ask. So it's okay. It's okay. And then the better question, or the subsequent question, is what are things that are better to ask Krishna for than things that just on the temporary and limited platform. Prabhupada would speak so much about praying to God for our daily bread. And who God is supplying daily bread to all living entities. I mean, bread meaning food. So you don't have to ask God for bread. But, you can pray to God for bread. That's okay. You get the idea. So the gradations of what you ask for is where refinement comes and elevation of consciousness comes. But main thing is be situated in your relationship, whatever that position is. Okay?
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you so much. Hare
I
Krishna.
see another hand up in the upper right left corner. Rashi?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful class. I have a question. Is everything predestined, or we make our life based on the choices we make on the basis of the minute independence or the free will we got, or it is destined? It's planned already.
It's a combination. The main thing, let's do it this way. When you're walking down the path of your life, your day, or your life, things come your direction. And that's destiny. Because of past activity, here comes whatever it is. And when here it comes, you're making free will choices. How am I going to respond to this thing that's coming my direction? So it's a combination. Things happen because of past deeds and past modes of nature as well. And then we're making choices. So best for you and me, I mean, the rest of the Prabhus on this call, they can do what they want. But for you and me, let's be really focused on making choices that are pleasing to Krishna. And how do we find out what's pleasing to Krishna? Well, we need good guidance. We read Bhagavad Gita regularly. We have good teachers, and we practice and practice and practice, so we can keep hitting the target and gradually hit the center of the target. It's practice living your life where whatever comes your way, you're thinking first of all that Krishna should be pleased. Now, what will be most suitable to pleasing Krishna? And then the picture changes a little bit, time passes, and so forth. Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Anyone else online? And if not, we'll look around the room and see if somebody wants to contribute something. I see. Look at that. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, thank you very much for the wonderful lecture. Guru Maharaj, the previous verse we have seen that we need to utterly surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I mean Super Soul. So, so the question here is that what exactly is surrender and what exactly utter surrender? Could you please throw some light on
What
that?
exactly is surrender? Why did you have to put that qualifier? I would prefer to tell you what it isn't exactly, but now you've got me in a corner. I got to say exactly. What exactly is it? Well, don't mind me. I'm just being silly. The standard understanding is body, mind, and words, and heart. So we do all. So exactly what it means is you don't say one thing and do something else. Your actions are consistent with your words, and your words are consistent with your values, and the values are connected to your relationship with Krishna. That's exactly what surrender is. So, supposing one of those things is out of alignment or is missing, then that's not exactly what surrender is. Surrender is the relationship with Krishna is the resting point of my values, and my values then are the resting place for the words that I speak, and the words that I speak are the resting place for all of my actions. And there's full alignment. How's that?
Yeah, that's very good, Guru Maharaj. So when you say utterly surrender, like whatever the thoughts we have, that should be same in the words and
Well, yeah, we're not there yet.
yeah.
That's part of the problem, but it's reality. And to get there is to move in the direction of surrender. And so it's practice. It takes work. I call it brahminical work or spiritual work, where it's not just the work, it's not just the doing something, and that's what surrender is. Devotional service is the work that we do. It is the work that we do, but that's not the sum and substance. It's giving yourself to Krishna. I am yours. And then the rest follows. Your heart is there, your values are there, your words are there, your actions are there and consistent. And we're not in that place, but the utter, using that another adjective that you just used, is coming to that position. That's called sharanagati. Sharanagati is coming to that position of sharana. And sharanagati means you've attained it. Sharanagati means you're working to get there, and we're not there yet. So the actual meaning is to work towards it and to get there. Okay.
Yeah, very. Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj. So I have one more question, relatively same question on the. Just now you have mentioned on Sharanagati and Sharanapati. Coming to here, like, is Arjuna is on Sharanagati or on Sharanapati? Because
What do you think? What do you
I
think?
think on Sharanapati because in the 10th chapter he himself. In the 10th chapter, we can see that Arjuna said that you are the supreme Lord, you are supreme abode, you are the purest. So that's what I understand, Guru Maharaj.
Okay. Well, let's go back to something that we saw. The bottom of this page is a commentary, seeing that Arjuna still seemed to have the false conception of thinking himself the knower or doer and doer. And because Arjuna's inability to give that up, the Lord then teaches in a different way in 2 verses. Now that's not our Acharya's commentary, that's teachers teaching Bhakti Shastri how to make a connection between one verse and the next verse. Arjuna is simply taking the position of like a pawn on Krishna's chessboard. Krishna is pulling strings, or maybe a better metaphor is Krishna's using Arjuna like a puppet, and he's the puppeteer. He's having him dance as he wants in order to instruct us. So one can say he's fully surrendered, chapter 10. One can say he's fully surrendered even before he falls into illusion. He's just acting as if he's one of us. So you can go in either direction and be correct.
Mhm.
He's taking the position, including right up to this section, because Krishna says, here's the verse: if, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So it's the free will choice. Now we know what Arjuna's free will choice is. Well, you know it is he's the eternal associate of Krishna. So even before the Bhagavad Gita happens, he's Sharanapati. But he's getting these teachings as if he wasn't. So you can take a position either way. Be correct. Okay?
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj. It was very nice and elaborate.
Okay. I see Snehavali's hand up. Go for it.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, I am thinking of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, where I think I heard that he's saying that this knowledge is not even in the authors like Badrayana, Narada, and one more. So my question is, Narad Muni, we know Narada Bhakti Sutra, and Badrayana is Srimad Bhagavatam, and we know the definition of bhakti, right? Sarvopadhi Vinirmuktam, everything is coming from there. Then why will Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says like that?
I had the same question. And I'm just reading what his commentary says. Now, within there are sections. Everything within the Bhagavatam leads to Krishna, and there are sections within the Bhagavatam that are not at the stage yet of Shuddha Bhakti. And here, Krishna is calling, even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is calling for things that are subsets of, but less than Shuddha Bhakti. And where he's getting to at this point is utter surrender. And so there are things in those other writings that are other than utter surrender. That's the best I can do. Snehavali, I was puzzled by that also. There are sections in the writings that, because Vyasadeva also wrote Mahabharata, not just Srimad Bhagavatam. And he wrote many, such things that one would wonder. And Bhagavad Gita is Bhagavatam is less like that. But this point in Bhagavad Gita is the point where it's utter surrender. And that seems to be what Vishwanath is pointing to. But we'd have to ask Vishwanath, and he's not around.
Thank you very much.
If you get his text number, let me know. Gives you an answer.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Next, Shikha.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice session. I just have a follow-up to one of the things that was asked earlier about, do we, is this destiny or free will? So one of the things that you mentioned was, as you're doing anything, always think about what will make Krishna happy. And no matter how much you, and I think this is just based on how far people have come in their journey, but I feel there are still instances when either out of anger or ego, you end up saying or doing things that might hurt another person. And you don't realize it in the moment, you realize it later. And I think that brings a lot of guilt. And I just was wondering, how would you recommend, of course, going forward, you can get more conscious, but how do you not feel that guilt or not feel bad about something that you've done already?
Well, feeling bad about something, remorse, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is a purification for a Vaishnav. I'll say it again. Remorse or regret is a purification for a Vaishnav. Now, it doesn't stop there, that you regret or feel some remorse. Now I'm clean. But that means, clean means you don't do it again. and supposing somebody does something repetitively, etc., then, there's more remorse or more regret and there's more purification. But it's insufficient. It's not sufficient on its own. Making the vow to yourself and to others and to Krishna, I'm not going to do this again, doesn't guarantee you're not going to do it again. So the recommendation that you're asking for is how to not feel that guilt. And my comment is, it's good. Don't wallow there. That's bad. That's ignorance. When you stay stuck in remorse, that's called the mode of ignorance. But you feel that feeling, and then it gives you resolve to move towards light. That's good. So don't avoid the regret or remorse or feeling badly that I spoke and did something that was inappropriate or harsh or something. Don't try to get rid of that. Just don't stay there. Instead, go to the light. Go to proper conduct. And there, that's Vaishnavachar. There are things that a Vaishnava will do if they have done that. And even if they have a tendency to do that, there are things that Vaishnavas can do. Okay?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, I don't see any more hands up. So we're going to go in. Oh, we have something online? Yes, from YouTube. Okay, the comment from YouTube. Let's go YouTube.
Hare Krishna, this is from Satyavrata Prabhu. Hare Krishna Maharaj, what is the root cause of not able to take a decision with full clarity? And what steps we should take to take the decision that is pleasing to Guru and Krishna?
Well, the cause is ignorance that covers the real knowledge of a living entity. That's the cause. And the answer to the other question is, similar. It's cultivation. And because through cultivation of bhakti, then the active principle of bhakti is that same principle. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. That's the active principle, that Krishna should be pleased. And again, spoken earlier, we're not there yet. To always think like that, we're not there yet. We could try better. So, and as that bhakti muscle gets exercised, we get a little more spiritual strength. Then it becomes natural for you. And gradually, it becomes your way of life. So it's a gradual cultivation. Exactly what Prabhupada writes in Nectar Devotion. Bhakti is a sort of cultivation. So we cultivate not just doing the right thing, we cultivate the consciousness of being dependent upon and connected to Krishna. And that's how we get there. We continue to strive, and we continue to feel dependent upon Krishna to help us. Okay? And that's an online question. By the way, that devotee is in Vrindavan, India. asking that question. So let's see. Anything in the room? Anybody would like to raise some discussion point?
Maharaj, in the slide where you were summarizing a previous week's, you're giving a summary,
Yes.
particularly the Param Shantim and Sthanam
Yeah.
Avapsyasi Shashvatam.
Yeah.
So, if I understood properly, you were saying Arjuna was thinking one or the other.
This is a commentary. It's not. Yeah.
So, Arjuna, I'm wondering how Arjuna could be thinking of being in the spiritual world, Sthanam is what you refer to, without a prerequisite of peace of mind.
Well, he was thinking. You know the answer to this. He was thinking, this is too disturbing. I'm out of here. I want to take my bow and arrow and go off to the forest and live in a cave and be peaceful, because this is too much. And that was the, not Param Shantim, but that was the peacefulness that he was thinking he could get. And if the other is, I've got to do things I don't like to do, and that's bhakti, then I guess I can do it, but then it won't be peaceful. That was his material, like us, material way of thinking, what's in it for me. So the answer is exactly what you said. They actually, really, Shantim is Param Shantim. And really, Param Shantim is being situated in the spiritual world. Being situated in the spiritual world is Param Shantim. But he was thinking a different kind of Shantim.
I just wanted to offer an appreciation for the PowerPoint. I thought it was just brilliantly explained. The words were so exacting, and the progression was very clearly explained, and the points really spoke to my heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I can give credit to where credit is due, and it wasn't me. I borrowed somebody else's work. Yes, you have something? Okay, time is up. Hey, Narottam, time's up, right?
Yes, Maharaj. Well, it's all up to you, Maharaj. If time is up.
Time's up.
If there's some other question in your association, there we can.
No, we're everybody's being mum tonight.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you very much. Once again.
Okay. Well, it's been nice being with you for 3 weeks in a row. There you go.